in the tank.
Yeah, I'm like Lee Westwood right now, just trying to drag my way through the singles matches. I was just telling y'all, I am so tired. It is such a fun week. It's such a long week though, and you're just up late every night there's just so much information jammed into these 3 days, and so many crazy things that have happened, and I think that's part of what makes it so fun, but it's also part of what makes it so tiring as well.
I want to jump in real quick because I need to give you props because nobody ever does. That I literally was living like through your tweets and through your articles and through all your coverage, and I felt it. Like I'm not kidding around. Like I felt, and I'm a feel guy, and I felt how excited you were and your reaction to Rory and all that kind of stuff. So keep doing that because I, for one, even though I work with you, thoroughly enjoyed it. So thank you for that. Thanks,
Coach. I appreciate that. It's an event that has meant a lot to me. I think it's a really important event, and I think it's a really meaningful event for everybody involved, including all of us who get to cover it. So I really appreciate you saying that.
Sure. I would never say this to his face, but Kyle's very good at conveying the emotion through words. I know how I feel. I assume I know how he feels, but I could never put that into writing. So Kyle does a very good job at that. Oh, there he is. K-Pip. Before we, Kyle has an article up on CBSSports.com, which was kind of a Monday thing after the Ryder Cup. It was awesome, but we haven't talked, Coach. So I want to get kind of your final thoughts, takeaways from what you saw, a historic win by the United States, kind of a passing of the torch to a new generation, Whistling Straits, wherever place you want to go. I want to open up the platform and say, Coach, have at it.
Well, thank you very much. Because I haven't even had a platform to talk about this because we've been so knee deep in our NFL stuff over at the early edge. But I watched as much of the Ryder Cup as I possibly could. I had it on one TV, I had football on the other, and I had a couple of different takeaways. My one was this, that these 12 dudes sat in a room prior to the Ryder Cup, and they looked at each other and said, we're getting ready to go kick their ass. And we're going to step on their throat, and we're not going to let up until we bury them. That was the look I saw on every single face when they would come out, no matter who it was. You never got that feeling that somebody was upset that they were sitting out of session because Steve Stricker, I'll give him all the credit in the world. He had everything lined up. This is what we're going to do for foursomes. This is what we're going to do for four balls. And everything just clicked. My second takeaway, Europe's in trouble. Because if that's the team that they're going to roll out there for the next 4 to 5 Ryder Cups, this is what we're going to see every single time. These dudes are nasty. They are bad. They are top 15 in the world, all like 12 of them basically. And if that's what Europe has, Rory has to be at the top of his game. And to watch him be disappointed in himself, that was like hurtful. To watch Rory kind of beat himself up with the tears and the emotion, and you felt how disappointed he was that he couldn't help his team. Below that, the reason he's so upset because he understands that if he and Jon Rahm don't do 5 things well, they've got no shot. They've got no shot to win. And that's what it's going to look like moving forward. Rory's got to play 5. Rahm's got to play 5. And then it's going to be Victor Hovland. And then where do you go from there? So it was an amazing week, but I don't want it to get to a point where it's so lopsided on the United States side that it's not competitive anymore. But I don't know if that's going to happen, but this was a statement. It was a statement for real. And this United States team, it's going to be very, very hard for somebody to break in to this United States team, somebody from the outside looking in, because none of those 12 guys want to give up their spot.
Sorry, Kyle.
Well, I was going to say one of the low-key things that kind of flew under the radar on Sunday is that Spieth kind of called his shot for Rome. I don't know if you guys saw in the presser.
No.
He said, "Hey, if we play like this again, the score is going to be the same."
Yeah.
And it was like
2 years out.
Can't argue with that. Can't argue with that.
It's true. They also haven't won there in 30 years, and I think that it's going to be fascinating because I think the thing about kind of to what Coach is saying, if Harris English and Daniel Berger and Scotty Scheffler are not on the team in 2023, then you're replacing them with guys that are like, if you want to go by strokes gained, like 1.5 well, not 1.5, 1.3, 1.4, 1.5 guys are better. Who is Europe replacing Ian Poulter and Lee Westwood and Bernd Wiesberger with?
Yeah.
Sergio might be on the team, but like the point is the level of player that they're replacing those guys with is just not as high. Now, again, course setup in Europe, potential dysfunction on the US side, that hasn't all gone away. But I just the level of like the floor for US talent, or I guess the floor for US talent is so high that I think Coach is right. Like Europe, there's some real problems that haven't been said. 2 years is forever. I mean, so many things. Somebody had a tweet. I think it was Robbie Vogel. I can't remember who. I think that was it. Said Francesco Molinari wasn't on the 2016 team. He wasn't even relevant, and he goes 5-0 and 2 years later, right in Paris. So that type of thing can happen, but it doesn't. I mean, you guys are right. Like it doesn't look all that great for Europe as of right now.
The U.S. will swap in Sam Burns, Max Homa, and Will Zalatoris, and the U.S. and Europe will swap in Matthias Schwab, Rasmus Højgaard, and Robert
Thomas
McIntyre.
Dietrich. Yeah.
See, and that's a great point. I also wanted to say one other thing that I forgot, that I got to give credit to the fact that Steve Stricker clearly did his homework. And I point directly to the Bryson, Scotty Scheffler team. Like there was never going to be Bryson with anybody but Scotty Scheffler. And then we find out in the interviews and all this how close they are, how much Scheffler respects his game, how much he leans on Bryson as kind of like a big brother type. And then you saw why they worked so well together. 4 balls. We've talked about it. I thought Bryson should have been in the foursomes. After the event, I've got to take that back. I was wrong. Because the way they positioned Bryson was brilliant. He could be the showman. He can hit all these shots, but yet have a partner that if he hits it into oblivion, he's still in the hole. You do that in foursomes, you can't do that. And I thought that was really, really smart by Captain Stricker to leave him just in 4 balls.
Yeah, because you put him with a guy like Scheffler's just kind of unassuming. I won't say happy to be there, but like his disposition is very good. You put Bryson with somebody like JT, who's just out of his mind. It's not going to work. Like, because JT thinks he's the showman, and he is, and Bryson, and there's a lot of problems there. So I thought the fit of those two together was, I agree, was really good.
KP, you have this article up here on CBSSports.com right now, and you've probably seen it all over the place. I saw it was being sent around the interwebs, but it was really the big takeaway for me was some of these quotes that you got from Rory McIlroy, talking a lot about how meaningful this event is, how I believe he actually described as, he's played his 6th, and that's probably more than halfway done. He was vulnerable. He was human.
Yeah. It was interesting. I was texting with Brendan Porath, who's on the Shotgun Start podcast. And we were texting last night on the way home, and we were talking about how the Americans won. They dream team, they routed, new era, all this different stuff. And yet it's still in a lot of ways feels like this event revolves around the Europeans. And I felt that at Hazeltine too. Their exit press conference is always just whether they win or lose, it's the coolest thing to be at. The way that they talk about one another, the way they talk about relationships, and I don't know, man, it's a really special week. And I think it gets you in an individual sport. It just gets you so outside yourself. I talked to Rory for, I don't know, almost 30 minutes yesterday, we talked about everything. We talked about Padraig Harrington's quote about loss of innocence. Remember the quote he had at Kiowa this year? Yeah. We talked a lot. He talked for a long time about the importance of and this is what Coach was getting at, the importance of being sent out first. That's a big deal to the Europeans. Like, I don't really think about it that much, and I don't think the American. I think it's maybe a thing, like a kind of a thing to the Americans. But on the Euro side, that's a really, really big deal. And he told me that at first he was slated to go 11th, and Graham McDowell and some other guys were like, whoa, hold on. Rory I know he's not playing well. Rory McIlroy does not play 11th on Sunday at the Ryder Cup. And
especially when you're down whatever the score was going into Sunday.
And he said it was so cool because he was talking about just how meaningful that was to him for all these guys around him to say, hey, Rory sucks this week, but he's still our guy. And he was like, he told me, he's like, I couldn't sleep on Saturday night because that meant so much to me. And I wanted so badly to go out and win in that leadoff spot. You know, even though the score was out of hand and whatever, he lost to Reed in 16. He lost to JT in 18. And he was just desperate not to lose again. And I don't know, it was, I didn't we didn't record it. We were just talking, it was such a cool conversation just about the Ryder Cup, about his career, just about everything. We talked about how we cried now so much, and Coach can relate to this, so much more so as dads than we ever did before. And I think that some of that emotion that you saw on Sunday from him was like him considering his own golfing mortality and maybe his own personal mortality. You know, I think weeks like this, they're so emotionally charged that they make you think about things like that you don't normally think about. So it was, I'm very grateful to have gotten to write about that, to have been there for that moment, to see him and his wife he was just sobbing. It was so surreal to because you have this onslaught, the wind is coming, the tide is just rolling in for the Americans. And then all of a sudden Rory just there was just this spell over everybody around this 16th green. And it was a really surreal moment. And I hope I captured at least some of that in that article.
Oh, are you kidding me? I mean, you captured every single thing. And I think at this point, of all of us, when we watch something, we have a tendency to put the mirror up and look at ourselves. And the one thing I think I'm most proud of is over the course of the last 4 years, and why I can sit here with you guys today, is the evolving I've done as a human being, as a person, as a father, as a leader, whatever. And when you listen to a guy that you've watched since he was a curly-haired, young kid, and now evolved from a person who didn't even care about the Ryder Cup, who literally said, it doesn't matter to me. And now you fast forward 10 years and he's literally crying, and there's not one person, not one, that said, oh, those are fake tears. Oh, he doesn't really mean that. Oh, this is all for show. It wasn't for show. And to watch him, and at every interview that he did, how did he end it? He's like, I hope that every little girl, every little boy wants to be part of a team. So to me, it takes it outside of the world of golf and just to being a person. And I don't care if it's a team that you're playing on. I don't care if it's a team that you do a show with every week. How close have we all become in the last 9 or 10 months? Much closer than we ever were before, right? So being part of a team, because we lift each other up. And that's what Rory was talking about, is that they lifted him up when he needed it. And so many times in recent years, he's lifted them up. So win or lose, that was immaterial at that moment, because he was talking about being part of a group. And when it's all said and done, nobody's going to care about his Ryder Cup record. They're going to care about the person that he was and the people that he affected and the things that he did. And that's how I looked at it. And I took away from your coverage, KP. So it was very, very meaningful to me, because this stuff matters to me. It really, really does.
Yeah, and I think the thing that surprises guys, especially on the Euro side, and Shane Lowry essentially said this, was it's almost, Europe got their asses kicked. And Shane Lowry's like, this is the best week of my life. This guy won the Open Championship by 5, 4, 6, I don't know, by a bunch in where he grew up, essentially. Not where he grew up, but close to it. He won the Open Championship, and going 1 and 2 in this field next to Lake Michigan with all these crazy Americans yelling at him is the best week of his life. That's freaking. I think guys are surprised by the fact that losing together is almost it's almost more fulfilling than winning alone.
Yes.
And yes. Rom said that. Rom told, I was talking to him on 17 tee boxes thing, Brooks is almost making a 1 there. Morikawa is hitting it to 3 feet. It's just it's a bloodbath. And Rom's like, listen, he goes, and this was like, we were just standing on the tee with like 3 guys. And he goes, I won the US Open 3 months ago. That doesn't touch this week.
You're
And
kidding.
They're like in the middle of just getting destroyed. Like, it's not like play was over. He had just gotten it done with his match. And he goes, the things that you guys are feeling, like all the emotion and everything that's going on, he goes, think about how we're feeling in the middle of it. And it was just like this. It's not like he won the US Open 3 years ago. He won it 3 months ago. Right. And he's so overwhelmed by just how meaningful a week like this is. And I think the Americans embodied that more so this year than maybe they have in the last 20 years. But I think the Euros have always embodied it. And I think that's why they're so appealing and so attractive when it comes to rooting for a team at the Ryder Cup.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting, especially with Rory, who has been in the spotlight for a third, maybe nearly half of his life, and to see the evolution that you mentioned, Coach, from the curly head. I mean, I think about my own worldview and how much it's changed in 5 years or 10 years, and he's doing it kind of in front of everyone. And he's being asked questions every single week, and it's kind of, I don't want to say weird. It's just, you always have to remember these guys are human too. It's just, we don't always think they are.
There's no doubt about it. Rob, go ahead.
Sorry. Go ahead, Coach. I don't want
No.
Okay.
You got it in your mind. Go ahead.
The other thing that he said was like, I was like, man, we were talking. I was like, your life is really, you have a weird life. Like, there's just not any other way to say it. Like, it's a very unique, strange life. And he was kind of laughing, and he said the thing that people don't understand, and I think I put this in the article, is like that week is so special for the guys that are on the team, but it doesn't stop there. It's extraordinarily special for all of their wives and girlfriends and like families to gather, to congregate in a way that he's like, we don't take vacations with people like we used to. We don't spend time with friends as much as we used to. So those weeks have like a heightened meaning for especially the Euros on that team.
Yeah, I think you're starting to see too, based off of what you just said, why it's so meaningful for guys to be vice captains, to just be connected. I mean, we didn't even talk about Phil at all. And he was on site. He was very much a part of being a vice captain. Zach Johnson, the same thing. Every single interview, I felt like they were talking about Tiger texting somebody or Tiger calling somebody the night before when they were in the team room, and he was very much involved. And then you saw every time a guy would win, here comes the girlfriend or here comes the wife, and you just forget how many people are on site. And then, of course, the GOAT, MJ, just there with the stogie and Ahmad Rashad riding his coattails. I mean, that's when it really came home to me. And then to read the quotes from MJ about, and Steph Curry doing the interview with Michael Jordan. I mean, when are you ever going to get that? I mean, and you got it at the Ryder Cup. I mean, all those things just, I will never wrap my head around anybody that doesn't have golf in their life and doesn't enjoy golf and sport. I don't get it. I don't want to get it. I don't want to live in a world like that. It was just freaking awesome.
I do want to give credit to this kind of pains me, but I want to give credit to Brooks Koepka because I know. It's a tough scene for me, but there was a moment on Sunday. So everybody was done. DJ's, drinking. He's on his like third drink. Everybody's standing on the 18th green, and there were I think there were 3 matches still on the course. It was Harris English, it was Spieth, and Berger, and all the players are standing around. And Koepka turns to Jenna, his fiance, and says, "Hey, I'm gonna go watch Boog, who's Daniel Berger." And he kind of like, with all the other guys, runs back up 18, back to 17, where all those other matches are kind of finishing up. And listen, that's not like abnormal. That happens a ton at team events like that. But it definitely struck me after the way he talked about this event, how heavily he had been criticized. There were no cameras around. He was just going to watch a guy that he had partnered with over the first couple of days and going to root him on, even though the event had been over for like
Done.
2 hours. It was toast. And they didn't have to do that. Like they could have just stayed and drank and waited for everybody to come through. But Koepka kind of like was one of the first guys out there. And I thought that was kind of cool. I thought that was a real thing.
It was. And I guarantee you, we don't ever hear an interview like that from Brooks Koepka again. He will never say it. I think it meant something to him at the end of the day, to your point. I don't think we'll ever hear him say, it throws me out of my rhythm. I think that's over. I really, really do.